Welcome to Better Together, a podcast about the Southern Baptist Convention's cooperative program presented by SBC this week. I'm Lawrence Smith. Well, we all know missions is at the heart of our cooperative effort, and today we're joined by Ed Herrelko from the International Mission Board to talk about how missions impacts hits closer to home than we might realize. Ed, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. First, talk about what you do at IMB and how the cooperative program really impacts that.
Absolutely, I'd love to. I serve currently as the Vice President of U.S. Engagement. And as you may know, the IMB's mission statement is to serve Southern Baptists in carrying out the Great Commission. And recently, in order to better do that, we reorganized all of our work facing Southern Baptists here in the U.S. under one new team called U.S. Engagement so that we could better serve Southern Baptists. And it's only been about a month and a half now since we launched that initiative, and I am blessed beyond measure to be leading that initiative. For me, it's extra special, and just by way of kind of tying this into the cooperative program, I wasn't raised a Southern Baptist. I was actually raised Independent Baptist. In the early 2000s, my church went Southern Baptist. And at the time, I didn't know much about the Southern Baptist Convention, and I was fortunate enough to be adopted into the SBC by a mentor of mine, Bill Taylor. He was known as Mr. Sunday School. And one of the first things Bill Taylor did was he showed me how Southern Baptists are better when they work together. I didn't know what the cooperative program was. I didn't know what the executive committee did. I didn't know what entities did until Bill introduced me to this whole world. And I'll tell you, my very first impression was, wow, why isn't everybody doing this? As someone who'd been an Independent Baptist, where churches were trying to go just alone and do it all on their own, to watch the beauty of so many Southern Baptists come together, especially around missions and education and all the things we do together. As a former corporate guy, it made sense because there's oftentimes strength when you can scale an initiative. So for me, the cooperative program is just a really sweet testimony and example of God's people working together to bring him glory.
Well, I think wow is a good descriptor, which is the descriptor you used. The fact that you're in this role and there's this new effort by the IMB reflects the fact that there are more people from overseas coming into this country. So how has that fact impacted what the IMB does?
You know, we've known for a long time that the nations are coming to our own backyards. It's been something that churches have been aware of and the people we serve. And a few years ago, we realized that there was a great opportunity for us to help local churches. Again, our mission's to serve Southern Baptists, right? We want our Southern Baptist brothers and sisters to feel the call to missions. We want them to learn what missions looks like. Sometimes there's no better way for them to experience it in their own backyard. And so we actually partner with the North American Mission Board. We have something called the Diaspora Collective. This is a group between both IMB and NAM that works with our local churches and our associations and conventions specifically about how they can reach the nations in their backyard. So we have seen where multiple countries, we've seen mass waves of people coming. They are coming lost. They don't know the Lord. And churches want to know, how do we reach them? What can we do? How can we show and exhibit Christ's love for these people? Our Diaspora Collective is actually one of the best ways for churches to learn how to do this. We run multiple training sessions and diaspora labs where our teams work together to train groups of churches and associations on how to share the gospel with different people groups when they're in their own backyard. In fact, this afternoon, I was talking with someone who said in their city alone, they have identified 63 people groups from overseas that are now in their city. And they're excited to be able to share the gospel and to reach these people groups for Christ.
You and NAM working together, another example of cooperation.
Absolutely.
Now, some of these folks from overseas are coming here, being reached by our churches, and then they communicate with people back in their home countries. So how does that kind of connect with the missionaries in that country? How does it all fit together?
Well, one of our biggest hopes, I think, it's recognized lostness is growing across the globe. There are more lost people on the planet Earth today than at any point in human history. This is not something we can do alone. We would love for Southern Baptist to be the vanguard of a massive revival across the planet. The reality is we need partnership. So just like we talk about local partnership and the beauty of cooperation and the cooperative program, we're starting to see more global partnership. It gives me chills. This is something that's so exciting for us, because the heart of what the IMB has done for 180 years was to ensure that we are training up national believers to lead out in ministry in their context. We don't simply want to send Southern Baptist missionaries and perpetually have to replace them after 20 or 30 years with another batch. We want to raise up national partners. And part of that means getting the nations to start sending to the nations. So even locally, if we can reach someone who has maybe left their country or left their context, we're able to share the gospel with them. Maybe we're able to help get them into a Southern Baptist seminary so they can be trained in the word. Our hope is that then we can send them back and they can go overseas and they can influence the people that they represent, and they can share the gospel more effectively. We see that the greatest power in this is when we have a global network of believers working together to share the gospel.
Well, let's talk about funding that work.
Yes.
There's the cooperative program, of course. There's also the Lottie Moon Christmas offering. So talk about how those two funding sources kind of work together.
Yeah, so let me talk about cooperative program first, because again, I cannot reiterate how unique and innovative the cooperative program is. I think we almost sometimes take it for granted. As someone, again, who wasn't historically Southern Baptist, when I thought, this is the power of synergy. These are people harnessing their resources. Instead of trying to go it alone, they're going it together, and it compounds everything we do. So cooperative program, we want to say thank you to Southern Baptist as an IMB. We want to say thank you for the cooperative program first and foremost. That it does more than just keep the lights on at the IMB. A lot of people think, when they think of cooperative program, they think of that being the U.S. side of the IMB's expenses. A really interesting point of fact, over 60% of the cooperative program money that the IMB receives is used overseas. Of the 40% that we keep for our local work, it's so we can train overseas missionaries. So the cooperative program actually directly funds overseas missions. These days, it accounts for about 1/3, a little bit over 1/3 of the revenue that comes in to the IMB. And it's a very important source of revenue for the company, for us to do what we do, which is not just send 3,600 missionaries, but sustain the 3,600 missionaries and their 2,700 plus kids. So cooperative programs a big part of what we do. Lottie Moon Christmas offering, as not everyone knows, but Lottie Moon was an absolute spitfire of a missionary. She went to China. She felt called by the Lord, and she went, and she was a bold woman, and she did a bold and big work on behalf of, at the time, the Foreign Missions Board. And so we started a Lottie Moon Christmas offering in her honor as a way to challenge Southern Baptists to give specifically to the work that occurs overseas, to augment what the cooperative program was bringing in. But one of our promises with the Lottie Moon Christmas offering is 100% of it goes to fund overseas missions work. That makes up about, these days, 2/3 of our budget is from the Lottie Moon Christmas offering. Some churches will do it year round. Sometimes it's just known as the Lottie Moon offering, because we send and we sustain missionaries 365 days a year. So we rely on the generosity of Southern Baptist partners to be able to do that.
Now, some folks may have gotten an email, I know I have, a fundraising email from the IMB. Talk about that part of your fundraising strategy.
So it's interesting that in this day and age, Southern Baptists are some of the most generous people on the planet. If you look at the data that's out there, part of my job is to study demographic data, nonprofit data, donor-related data. And overall, of the Protestant denominations, Southern Baptists lead out in their generosity. not only are they financially generous, let's make this clear, they're generous with their service. And they're generous in a way that transcends just the SBC. A lot of our people are looking to be actively engaged and feel like they're partnered in something outside of their church as well as inside of their church. So I'm going to drop some interesting stats on you. If we look at the greatest generation and the silent generation, they were very faithful to tithe to their church. The bulk of their nonprofit giving was given directly to the church, but even then, they often had one or two organizations that they felt very strongly about that they supported outside of their church. Boomers, for example, will give to their church as a demographic. They will give tremendously and generously to their church, but they'll have 2 to 3 non-church or parachurch organizations they give to in addition to what they give in the offering plate. There's often a thought that if you ask people to give directly, you're taking money out of a local church's offering plate. That has been proven, empirically proven, to be false. Our people are giving through a multitude of channels and a multitude of ways. So they're giving to their church and they're giving to their favorite nonprofits. When you get to Gen X, I'm a Gen Xer, my generation gives to our church, maybe not as much as the boomers do, and then we usually give to about 3 to 5 additional nonprofits, just statistically. They've done a lot of research on this. If we look at millennials are a little bit less inclined to give through the offering plate for a variety of reasons, but they will often give to 5 to 7 plus outside organizations. Then you get to Gen Z, which is a brand new kind of paradigm shifting generation. Gen Z looks to give their wealth and give their generosity across up to 10 different organizations. So as the IMB started to recognize this, we realized that Southern Baptists are exceedingly generous and they're giving to a lot of good causes. And they would love to give directly to see the gospel change a life overseas, but they weren't being asked to. They were giving through the offering plate, and some younger generations not even as much, which we lament. We want to see them give to the cooperative program. We want to see them give to their church, but we know they are going to be giving to other organizations. And we realize it's not a either or, it's a both and. People will give to their church and they will give directly to groups that ask them to help. And so we're finally in a position at the IMB where we recognize sometimes we don't have what we need to impact lostness the way we want to impact lostness because we're not asking for it. So we've started asking people to give not apart from their church, but in addition to what they give to the church, knowing that 100% of that goes to help us solve the world's greatest problem, which is lostness. We believe that the work we do, they're giving to a lot of good causes, but when they give to the IMB, they're helping someone enter into a eternity with the Lord Jesus Christ. So we truly believe that the work we do matters so much that we want to see more people involved in that work.
I think to see the impact of the cooperative program, the impact of the IMB, I think it's important to put a face on it. So how does the local church connect with that face, which is the IMB missionary?
Yeah. You know, one of our greatest strengths could also very easily become one of our greatest weaknesses, which is our fully funded model. So a couple things that actually are very germane to the question you just asked me. I think as all Southern Baptists know by now, when people are sent through the IMB, your Southern Baptist missionaries are fully funded. They don't have to come back for 2 months out of every year and raise their own support. Here's what's interesting about that. Our missionaries have an average tenure. Right now, it's above 14 and a half years, and pretty soon it could get above 15 years on the field. The average faith-funded missionary, according to outside research that's been shared with us, the average faith-funded missionary lasts only 4 to 5 years on the field. So our people believe so strongly in being called to the nations that they go overseas, and for 180 years, they didn't have to worry about where the finances were coming from. But that also meant they didn't have to come back and connect with Southern Baptist churches, right? So you can see how our greatest strength becomes a weakness because our own people are so single focused on sharing the gospel with those who have not heard it that they don't come back and talk to churches. A few years ago, Dr. Chitwood realized this was a bit of a problem, so we launched Church Connections. And we said we want all of our Southern Baptist missionaries through the IMB to make sure they are connecting to Southern Baptist churches. We didn't want to be out of sight, out of mind. We actually wanted to be front of mind with them. So every IMB missionary is assigned a portfolio of Southern Baptist churches, and their job is to call and email and send them letters and try to connect with our churches. It's been really good. We've reached well over 80% of our Southern Baptist churches. If someone still doesn't know who their missionary is, and they're absolutely just desperate to have an IMB missionary connect with them, the easiest way is info@imb.org. If they email info@imb.org, it goes to what we call our Church Success Center. We have representatives there that answer them and say, I will look up your missionary. I'll let you know their contact information, and we'll make sure you two connect. But it's really important for us because we don't want Southern Baptist missionaries not to be reporting back to their churches. We want them to inspire the churches. We want them to call out the called. We want them to be present in their churches. And this is our effort. So info@imb.org, or they can go to the website, and there's a number on our website in the bottom of the website. And if they simply dial the number that's on every page of our website in the footer, they can get to a live representative that will also tell them who their Church Connections missionary is.
Ed, thank you so much. Good stuff. Really appreciate your communicating that information about IMB and the work you guys are doing and the importance of your cooperative program to that work. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time as we explore all the reasons why Southern Baptists are better together through the cooperative program.